Welcome. I'm Greta Okomo. I'm the founder and CEO of Collaborative Change Consultant. I empower leaders and teams to be more inclusive, collaborative, and strategic. So today is just talking a bit about myself, about the inspiration behind Collaborative Change Consulting, the programs and services that I offer as well, and how to work with me, how to engage with me in the work that I do. Okay, welcome. Welcome to everyone who's here. If you have joined in the comment section, let me know where you're joining from. Where are you joining from? And thank you so much for being here. So we'll just get started. Okay, so a bit about me, Greta Okomo, founder and CEO. So a bit about my background. I'm originally from Virginia, Culpeper, Virginia, in fact, from a family, a Southern family, from roots in Texas, Louisiana, and Virginia. And pretty much all my family is in those three states in the US. And so, because of that, I'm also from a family where I was a first generation college student, first in my family to get a bachelor's degree and first to get a master's degree. So, that really informed the work that I did. When I was in college, I really kind of had no clue what I was doing. And I really needed the support from resources on campus, like the Multicultural Center and the Career Center, and different offices that were just in faculty and staff that were there to support students. And that was the time when I really set the foundation of understanding the importance of valuing cultural differences, right? Of someone's worldview, of their perspective, of their background. I'm coming from a background of a smaller town, smaller southern town. My parents have a working class background, as my father was a truck driver, my mom was a housekeeper. And, I'm going into these settings with people who are very, very different from me and very different backgrounds. And it really solidified for me that there is value and there is strength in every experience that someone brings, and the value that they bring based on their specific um, perspective and lived experience and their story. And so for me, as I went into my profession, higher ed kind of evolved because of what I experienced when I was when I was in college. So when I worked in higher ed, I focused on positions that focused on development, right? Development, leadership development, and advancing leadership and diversity and inclusion, intercultural competency type roles. So I was in roles in multicultural affairs office, in student involvement engagement offices. And in particular, I was focused on the support and advocacy and education related to underrepresented populations. And that includes students, faculty, and staff. And with my work, it evolved over the years to focusing more and more on the education piece and more on how to be inclusive, how to be have access and opportunities and prevent and mitigate biases related to certain populations in our university. And so that is the work that I do. And my work is rooted in that, in collaborative change consulting, very much rooted in understanding different cultures, intercultural competency, leadership development. My work is rooted in that. And so I served in roles within higher education and nonprofit organizations. And I am somebody who literally works my way up. I started, as they say, I started from the bottom and now we're here. But I literally started as a student aide in the James Farmer Multicultural Center, at the time Mary Washington College, because I'm a certain age, and now it's University of Mary Washington. And I started there, and I literally was a graduate intern, assistant director, associate director, and then up to senior leadership roles. And that has really informed the work that I do now with collaborative change consulting, because I've been at every level. And when you've been at every level, you've observed a lot of things throughout your time in leadership roles. And so, I have direct experience developing, facilitating for, as I said, I've been all types of roles. So I've worked with all different types of people in leadership settings, in universities, at nonprofit organizations. So I was worked with executive leaders. In my last role, I actually worked with government leaders, um, senior level government leaders, people at GS 14, GS 15 levels. If you know the government lingo, also mid level managers, administrative staff, support staff. I've worked even at times working with people who have been on the custodial staff, dining hall staff, faculty and students. So I've worked with all different populations, very much rooted in the work of gaining cultural understanding, cultural competence, and also those leadership development foundational tenets you need in order to be effective leader, but also effective on a team and in your role. So why collaborative change consulting? And in particular, why that name, collaborative change consulting? Collaborative because, as I said before, I have worked my way up. I've been all types of positions. And what I observed is that the key to making transformative, sustainable change, lasting change, was to be collaborative in your approach, right? What I observed was that when leaders were kind of doing it on their own, they were there was a breakdown in trust, or a breakdown in communication, a breakdown in respect, a lack of an inclusive space, right? A lack of a psychological safety. It really would, as I said, it in my second point, that it would derail the success of a team. And I had seen that in the different levels of me working in different positions. And I mean, centrally, that's what it was. I thought the change happens when we are collaborative and we work effective in an effective way collaboratively. So that is at the heart of collaborative change consultant. Also, too, throughout all my years, something I very much noticed was that leaders cannot be effective if they don't know who they are or who they are working with. Right. And as I go back to my experience and go back to who I am, how I grew up, how my parents grew up, and then having someone like me in a position, a Black woman of a certain generation, parents from the South, I'm from the South, from a working class background, with specific beliefs and spiritual beliefs and, core values, what my core values were, placing me in a role or a team or a leadership position, what that means, and then how I interact with other people, how they interact with me. And if we don't know each other, if they really don't know who Greta is, they don't know what motivates me, what my values are, what respect looks like to me. Folks from the South, like they're, we have certain etiquette and how you address people and how you talk to people. And as I always said, people in the South like to put a little sugar on things, right? We'll tell you what needs to be said, but we'll sprinkle a little sugar on it. We may say, just a term of endearment in there as well to soften the blow, right? We're going to tell you, but we're going to tell you nicely, right? And with kindness. And so all those things matter. And so with that, it goes back to the authentic and intentional human connection. And that's at the heart of an organization, but it's also the key. It's a key to organizational success. And I deeply believe that based on all the experiences I've had and the different roles that I've had. And in particular, because interesting enough, I was often the person that came in after a time of great upheaval in a team or at an organization or at, or within leadership. I'm not sure how that happened or why that happened, but I often was that person to come in after like maybe high employee turnover, some shakeup in leadership, some major upheaval that happened. And I often was that person to come in and stabilize things, right? And so I learned the importance of collaborating with trust and respect, communicating with clarity, champion intercultural competence and cultural humility, championing that everyone like inclusive behaviors, right? And creating an inclusive environment where everyone can shine, everyone has strengths, everyone is bringing something to the table that is a value add. And also prioritizing personal and organizational values, right? Sometimes you have to stop, especially after there's been a lot of uh, upheaval or a lot of change, a lot of things that are kind of rattling the strength of a team. It's really important to sort of gain understanding of one another, but also to get back to what are our goals, what are our values, how does what we do line up with the values we have set as an organization or as a team, our mission, our values. So all those things I noticed in, my time, and I observed, and I, that was my experience in the many roles that I've had in the, nearly 20 years. And so with that, that's really the tenets and the foundation of collaborative change consulting. The importance of collaboration, the importance of getting to know yourself and others, the importance of making sure that you're addressing those interpersonal challenges, right? Maybe the breakdown of trust, the breakdown of communication, breakdown of respect, breakdown of psychological safety, right? And so all of that makes your team, hinders it from getting to the goals that you want to set, right? You may have high employee turnover, low morale, less engagement, low productivity, right? It's hard to work hard, right? Or it's even hard to work effectively when you don't trust anyone, right? When you feel like there's a lack of respect, right? So, like, how do you work effectively if those things are not addressed? So that is the core of the work that I do, right? To empower leaders to be more inclusive, collaborative, strategic. And these are the ways that I work. And these are the topics that I focus on. Okay. All right. And so, in particular, these are the services. So, I do webinars, and I've been doing webinars related to those topics, such as respect, um, uh, embracing authenticity, personal storytelling. I'll be doing one of those sessions soon, about bias, understanding and interrupting or preventing bias. Um, those are some values, core values, exploration. Those are some of my go to session topics. So I do webinars. I also do in-person sessions. So those can also be in-person sessions. I do leadership training, bias and cultural competency or humility training, and also facilitating team building retreats. And I can do keynote speaking as well, right? I'm kind of a one-stop shop when it comes to leadership development, and intercultural competency, inclusion, belonging topics, really. That is the kind of breadth of the experiences I've had and the roles that I've had. So those are listed as session topics. I mentioned a few of those as well, but it's not an exhaustive list. These are what kind of the go-to ones. These are ones that if you contact me, we can pretty much work on getting that, to your team pretty quickly because I already developed the content for that. And then also letting you know I developed the content myself, in collaboration with my clients, but I do the research. I put together the content, the slide deck, and that's from my experience in work in the work that I've done, but also I have a master's degree in education, in particular in like educational leadership. So with that background and also some other experiences and certificates that I have, it is very much grounded in that I do create the content for those sessions and webinars and retreats. And I can customize as well, in which I'll work with the client. I'll work with you to develop what your goals, what your outcomes are, what's going on in your group. You may bring me in to say kind of experiences that I had, like, hey, we're starting fresh and new. Like most of our team is new. There was, maybe a little bit of tension and strife and conflict before, other folks left. So we're trying to rebuild now, right? We're trying to like build back up trust and, kind of get to know each other and set a good foundation for how we're going to move forward as a team. So those are the things that, clients bring me in to do. Also training of their team, building morale, skill set related to certain topics. And so also I've developed leadership packages. So if your team needs like a full day of training or a 2 day retreat, something like that, then you can work with me to focus on these leadership packages. So the first one is developing a winning team. So this focuses on more on topics like motivating your team, core values exploration, personal storytelling. It's a lot of getting to know you and getting to know ourselves and how we're going to work together. Inclusive leadership really focuses on topics like the bias. Um, Again, like how do we get to know who each other is and how do we interrupt anything that may keep us from being effective as it comes to, cultural topics and interactions. And then personal development is more kind of a grab bag of what you need as an individual to be successful in any role, but in particular as a leader. And those topics go back to like motivation, embracing authenticity, also self care as well, conflict resolution, and so those are the topics and those are leadership packages. And then the program so far, I'm developing different programs, but the program that I'm currently doing and which has been going amazingly well, and very glad for it, is Embracing Authenticity, Taking Leaps of Faith Leadership Discussion Series. So the inspiration for that series was this sense of leadership is not always what people post, on the social media platforms, all the like good results, right? All of the kind of where the winning type of times in your life, but the challenges, right? And the everyday process of what you do as a leader in whatever industry that you are in. And so I wanted to interview people from different industries, professional backgrounds that I knew, had challenges along the way and they kept going. So really, and also people who are very rooted in themselves and expressing, and people who are very authentic, right? People who are doing the work in a way that is an expression of who they are, right? And not going outside of that to feel like they need to be successful. So people who embrace authenticity and take leaps of faith, people who are courageous, resilient, have a lot of hope, and they keep going. They keep going despite challenges in life. They keep going despite people maybe telling them no over and over again, or these are not good ideas, or they don't understand your vision. So it's been a great series. I've interviewed amazing people. So far, it's interesting enough been all women. I didn't plan it that way, but it's just people I know who really reflect that uh, the actual purpose of and meaning behind the series. So that is the series. The next one will be April 28th, and I'll be interviewing Dr. Gayla Sims, who is the curator of African American history and programs at Fredericksburg Area Museum in Fredericksburg, Virginia. And she's also a VP of programs at Fredericksburg Area Museum in Fredericksburg, Virginia. So that's a program I'm having. I will develop more in the future. Those are free for people just to engage in and learn more about these amazing women. So those are services and programs. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me here. And so I'll go back to testimonials. So here's some testimonials, right? Because it's one thing for me to say that I'm great, amazing, and wonderful, which I think I kind of am. But I have worked with people in different industries and fields. So recently, I worked with Rappahannock CASA, and CASA stands for court appointed. Court appointed student advocate. Yeah, court appointed student advocate. And that are people who are volunteers, who serve as volunteers for young people who may be in foster care, or in another situation because there are difficulties in their household and with their families, and they serve as people that go in and support the children, the families, and represent them in court as well. So an amazing organization. The volunteers volunteer a lot of their time, and it is a position that just requires a lot of you. And so I worked with their team, all of their volunteers. They have about 20 or so volunteers, and they go through a series of training. And so I was brought in to kind of do some team building activities for them to get to know each other, but then also to talk a bit about implicit bias, intercultural sensitivity, competency. And so it was a great experience. And so the executive director gave an amazing testimonial. And then also too, I've worked with Wormly, which is a tech startup as well. And I did a presentation about respect and bias with them. And then also too, one of my webinars recently about cultivating a culture of respect. We had an attendant who's a co-managing attorney and leadership development partner from Progressive Assurance who attended and gave a great testimonial. I think it also shows the breadth of the work that I do working with teams, and then also in different types of teams, and then also my standalone webinars and sessions that I do as well. Okay. So, okay, with all that information, I know that you just are, wanting to work with me, right? You're like, how do we work with this person, this amazing person, Greta Okomo? And I say, this is the way to do it. So book a free consultation with me. All right. And so you go to my website, collaborativechangeconsulting.com, contact, and then we can discuss things from there. We can discuss, what do you need from me? Like, what's going on with your team or with you specifically, or your organization. Discuss your goals and outcomes, and discuss your cost. Right. And then we're going to discuss the cost based on what you need. Do you need a full day? Do you need a half day? Do you need 2 days? Do you need, do you want to bring me in for, every 2 weeks for 3 months, or, depending on what the needs of your organization is, or your team. Also, too, if you're not sure quite yet, but just want to keep checking me out and following me and supporting me, you can go to my LinkedIn page. I have a personal one where I post a lot of my business, but also I have a business one. I post everything related to my business, and also have a YouTube channel. And with the YouTube channel, I will post the webinars that I do, the leadership discussions, embracing authenticity, taking leaps of faith, leadership discussions, and also uh, this as well. So, and I just posted a YouTube page, but please subscribe to that page, and so that you can get all of this information as well if you can't attend live. Okay. So those are all the ways. So thank you so much. Thank you for those of you who are here, who are attending. Please let me know. Does anyone have any questions? Does anyone have any questions? Okay, I'll wait a couple more minutes just to see if there's any questions or anything. I'm really hoping all of this is streaming properly. I really hope. Okay, excellent. Okay, I do have someone there. Okay. All right. Any questions? If there's no questions, then I'll wrap it up. I'll wrap it up. And I thank you so much for attending. I thank you for your time. Like I said, go to Collaborative Change Consulting and you'll find all the information related to the business, and how you can work with me. No questions? Okay. Okay, excellent. Seems like there's no questions, but thank you so much for your time. Yes, and I appreciate all the support I am getting for my business so far. And I'm very appreciative. I'm very grateful, very humble. So thank you. Have an excellent, wherever you are, afternoon, morning, evening, and a great weekend. And hopefully I will work with you soon. Okay, excellent. Okay. Thank you so much. I'll stay on for another minute or two in case there's any lingering questions. But other than that, thanks for coming. All right. Thank you so very much. All right. Please stay connected with me. All right. Have a great day. Bye bye.